So I decided maybe to answer this with a video. Did she do anything what made you think is such? Why do you think she's a kind of down to earth when you don't know her? What makes her a role model? Um, so this is obviously talking about Camilla because this was on a, I think this comment came under the video where I kind of spoke about the Queen Consort, the UK Queen Consort, and why I like about her. And I decided I can't write everything, so I'm just gonna say it in a video. So I know I've not met her in person, but around 6 May 2023, after I watched the coronation of King Charles III, and obviously Camilla was crowned queen as his queen because she's his wife. And I knew about Diana. Like, I was born in 2001, so Diana wasn't alive then, but I knew about Diana. I knew that Diana was Charles' first wife, but I didn't know that Camilla was, even though Diana was Charles' first wife, I didn't know that Camilla was Charles' first love. Like, and that Charles met Camilla before he married Diana. And I think I remember also my mom talking about Camilla and Diana and how Camilla was supposed to be his young love. Like, he met her when they were young and single. However, I then decided I don't want to go on TikTok because there's a lot of hate about Camilla on TikTok. So I first decided, should I believe that? And I went up to the library again, the public library, and have so many biographies about the royal family. I did did a little bit research about the royal family, but I mainly took the biographies that were written about Camilla, and Angela Levin and Penny Junus are my two all-time favorite journalists who've written about Camilla. When they've written about Camilla, they researched about her. They researched the history, so they obviously went along with, she's a great granddaughter of Alice Keppel, who was the mistress of King Edward VII. That's why also Camilla's mom never wanted anything to do with the British royal family because of her grandmother. She didn't want her daughters to be like her grandmother, a mistress. However, her eldest daughter, who's now queen, was kind of a mistress. But actually, there's a difference between Alice and Camilla, because Camilla didn't even ask. I don't think Alice didn't ask to be a mistress too, but I don't think Camilla ever asked to be a mistress. I mean, before she became Charles' mistress, both of them were single. However, and she always loved Charles, but she loved Andrew more. So Camilla always wanted Andrew. But Andrew never loved her. He would always go out with other women and just leave her alone. It must be. I don't know. We don't know much about the Parker Bowles because the Parker Bowles were a private family. They're not like the they're not like the royal family who's always like into the media, like in touch with the media. They were more private, so we don't know what happens behind closed doors. Again, going back to this question of why I like Camilla, when I read about her biography, it mentions that she's a down-to-earth person, and Penny Jr., Angela Levin, and even Tina Brown, who written the Palace Papers. Now, Tina and Penny, they have written research about Dale Elizabeth Tyrone, who was supposed to be his Australian mistress. If you know Lady Dale Tyrone, she's also an international businesswoman who in the fashion industry, and she's the one that created the Kanga fashion line. You can see that Diana often wore the Kanga dresses. Now, I'm gonna do a second video about that. This one is about Camilla and what I like about her. So she is a down-to-earth person. A lot of her friends like Penny Jr., Angela Levin, Tina Brown, all these journalists who've been doing research about either Camilla or the royal family, especially about Camilla, they would go talk to either Charles himself or her children. I don't think they talked to her grandchildren. They were just children. But I think her children are now adults, so they either talk to her children or her friends. There was one of her friends on the Good Morning Britain talking about, how she felt what Harry referred Camilla as the wicked stepmother. And obviously she's a very close friend of Camilla's. And they have all mentioned she's a down-to-earth person and she can be loving and kind. And it's really sad that she from from birth to kind of like the late 1980s, she was not really much involved with the media. She just wanted to be like her mom, be a housewife and a mother, and that's what she was. However, in 1992, due to Andrew Morton's book Deanna Her True Story being published, her name came into the papers and she was just attacked, verbally attacked, and it must have been really hard for her. She just wanted to be a normal mom and wife. She, however, did come in contact sometimes with the media when she started dating Charles, because Charles was the Prince of Wales then. And I guess that's why it's very hard to date the right family. Like, if you want to have a private life, then I wouldn't suggest dating the right family. Even it can be hard at times, and love can be hard too. And I guess it must be really hard for Camilla to fall in love with Charles. She actually did love Andrew and was married to him, but Andrew then in the 1990s put it out that about a divorce. It mentions in Penny Jr.'s book, The Duchess Untold Story, that Andrew first came to Camilla to ask for a divorce. And Camilla, I don't think she ever wanted to divorce Andrew. She never wanted to be unfaithful to Andrew and become Charles' mistress, and she once in 1979 rekindled her affair with Charles to see what Andrew would do, but to her surprise he didn't do anything. He says, "Oh yeah, he let her be the mistress of the king." So I think that must have hurt her a lot times. And when I talk about what makes her a role model, I mean, personally, for her children and grandchildren, I can see that she's a role model. I've not spoken to her children and grandchildren, and I can't because they live in London and I live here in they live in London and I live 3 hours away from London. Anyway, but for her children and grandchildren, even not her grandchildren, but her husband's grandchildren, so Charles' grandchildren, she spends some time with her husband's grandchildren because they are like part of the royal family. Her grandchildren doesn't have to follow like any royal protocols because they're not part of the royal family, so they don't need to. They're a lot more free, but also private. And I hope they won't get attacked by the media. Oh God, this day and age is really tough with the media following you anywhere, famous people everywhere. So, also a role model. What also puts Camilla as the role model, she has this reading room on Instagram called the Queen's Reading Room, which I followed as part of being an author myself and also having my own reading room, Reading with Lynn. I first started reading with Lynn, reading children's books, because I just love taking up a children's book and reading it to children. I love reading to children. It's so much fun. I'm now promoting other authors on my reading room book club. But Camilla, like her father, was a bookworm and still is, and now she has a reading room called the Queen's Reading Room. So that's what I really like a lot. And she invites other authors to talk about that book. She recently put Mrs. Beetle's book on there as well. It's called, I need to say Mrs. Beetle. I think it was called Mrs. Beetle. It's an adventure story. Also Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. So that's what I find inspiring. She has this reading room and she promotes reading, and says how reading can affect, how reading is so much better than for children and adults. And a lot of schools, they don't encourage that. Schools, they can be busy with marking grades that they forget about encouraging people to read books. I had actually a few teachers in high school who were talking about books and who were encouraging, yeah, you should go and read this book. And it was really fun because I was talking about the books I've read, and I've read some teen stories back then, but they also encouraged me to read different types of books, and they just said, oh yeah, you don't have to read Biff, Chip and Kipper, you can read different types of books. There are like a lot of books out there, so try and go from different genres.